I mean, the comments are just flowing. That's a lie. Don't believe them. This is a trend. They just want money. I know y'all are really sensitive about certain people in the community. So today I'm going to give you the 5 top misconceptions when it comes to essay cases. Because what we ultimately do not want to do is create or hold certain people to such high standards that they become that uncle in the family. Because our commentary really does have consequences. Why are they bringing a civil case? Why not bring a criminal case? It is the legal system that decides whether or not a case should be filed, fortunately. And this is exactly why survivors have a hard time. SA survivors are literally just trying to do just that. They're trying to survive. There is no mild SA. SA is SA, but we haven't really established good, safe spaces yet where Black men can feel safe to come forth and to share their stories. What I do want us to understand is that the Me Too movement does not exempt Black men. There are very powerful Black men who have done wrong. Falsehood number 2. And this one, y'all, it rides my nerves because y'all know better than to make this statement. High-profile cases have hit the airways, and the commentary is concerning, proving that the public continues to struggle with SA cases, with circulating false narratives, opinions presented as facts. So today we are laying out the actual facts, no cap. Let's jump right into this hot topic. Thank you guys for watching us, and don't forget to do what? Click subscribe. Hey, you guys. So I have unpopular facts. I know people usually say unpopular opinion, and I'm saying unpopular facts because given the current events, I've been hearing a lot of commentary and a lot of comments and postings with information that people are sharing as if they're facts, but they're really just opinion. And I think it's really important when these critical circumstances arise in our community that we're able to distinguish what's facts and what's opinion. It's okay to have your opinion on different court cases, but it's really important not to create facts to try to justify your opinion. If you want to say that I don't believe this particular claimant, or I don't believe this particular accuser because I just feel a certain way about the situation, that's okay. But what I really have been disheartened about is that people create their own universe, they create their own reality based on their feelings and don't really have the facts to back it up. So I'm going to share with you the facts. So this video is really only for individuals who want to know the facts, which will then help you to formulate your opinion, or perhaps not. Perhaps nothing I share will change your mind about your ultimate feeling towards these cases. But at least you'll be more informed and I've done my duty. So granted, and I'm not going to talk about the specifics of the cases because what I'm sharing really is more of a general approach to these cases and not specifically about these circumstances. Though I will have a little bit of generalization just because there is some commonality between some of these celebrity cases that have led people to make certain commentary that's just completely false and just completely opinion, but they're presenting it as if it's a fact. We're going to talk about the facts when it comes to SA cases. If we're going to move forward as a community to better be able to assess these cases in terms of public opinion, because none of us are judges or lawyers, but in terms of public opinion, it's really important that we have the facts because our commentary really does have consequences. Commentary that's based on inaccurate information or presented as a fact when it's really just an opinion has the ability to really deter people who are truly survivors and are hesitant to share their experiences just simply because they're watching what happens when other people bring forth a claim. I know y'all are really sensitive about certain people in the community because y'all be holding folks up like idols. But Either way, my intention is not to talk about these individuals because it ain't my business. Okay. However, what is my business are other survivors in the community or survivors in the community in general, because I want them to know that they are supported and there's a safe space that they can come forth and share their stories. That is all. Because what we ultimately do not want to do is create or hold certain people to such high standards that they become that uncle in the family.
And what I think that comes out of, because anecdotally, we will ask a baby girl to who endured sexual abuse to shoulder the pain of her abuser.
For sure.
Because, and what that comes from is, so anecdotally in our families, we'll say, okay, this happened. So now we got to keep this baby away from the uncle who touched her. Why? Because as sick and as subhuman as it is to abuse a child, Black people know that the white invented criminal justice system constructed from slavery incites a cruelty beyond even our imagination.
Come on.
So our thing is, we are going to protect this child. We're going to keep this man away, and we're going to keep it all out of the hands of white folks, because this man is messed up here. And we gonna handle our justice our way, but we still not gonna turn him over to y'all. That's and real. This baby girl is gonna be safer in my arms, and we not gonna turn her over to y'all. That is what that pain is born out of.
The one who everybody gives a pass to, even though he has inappropriate behavior, and he has had inappropriate behavior to multiple people in the family, folks let everything slide. At the same time, people's lives are being ruined because of those inappropriate passes. Y'all got what I'm saying? You're picking up what I'm putting down. I hope so, because if you do, we can save some lives together. So today I'm going to give you the 5 top misconceptions when it comes to essay cases. There is a narrative that has been circulating on the social and the media, and these statements are oftentimes so far from the truth. So let's get into it. Falsehood number 1. One of the most common false statements when it comes to essay cases, especially highly public essay cases, is the comment of, I don't believe this person. They're not telling the truth. Or, oh, essay is now trending. Let me first say, anyone who is a actual survivor of an essay, they don't want to be trending. It is not their desire to be a part of a trend, but what they do want is justice.
Of the reason behind the lynchings is white women. Somebody said he whistled at me. Somebody said, like, Emmett Till was not singular. It wasn't an anomaly. It was the common thing. So no, I think because, again, we carry that trauma and pain with our brothers. Journalist and anti-lynching crusader Ida B. Wells noted in her 1892 pamphlet, Southern Horrors, that 1/3 of the charges against Black men were for the rape of white women. And investigations found that most of those relationships were consensual. So, we can't do that, now somewhere in that journey, we lost our way. I have to say, and in our effort to protect Black men, we forgot to protect ourselves. And some of us, I would argue, forgot to protect Black women, because there are, quite frankly, Black women who are harmed by Black men. When I heard people say, well, should he be in jail for all that? And please, them little girls look grown and they knew what they were doing, and where the parents, like, that breaks my heart. But some of these comments are from Black women. And I'm looking at this like, you giving this girl, this baby girl, less grace.
I don't know. Society makes that the permission structure.
And I will definitely tell you, we've said this over and 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 over again. False reports are rare. Listen, they have studied false reports in a variety of circumstances, communities, from the college students to the general public. And over, studies have shown that falsified reports are rare. Now, I'm not saying that they're impossible, and I'm not saying that they don't happen. They do happen, but they're very uncommon. And so all I'm saying is, instead of jumping to the conclusion of this is a false report, just remember that you're more likely when you make that statement to be wrong than to be right. And so when you hear about these cases, don't just jump to the conclusion really quickly because you really like somebody. Really pause and think about what's being said first and then make up your mind. But false claims and false reports are not common, and that has not changed. Falsehood number two. And this one, y'all, it rides my nerves because y'all know better than to make this statement. But you keep making these statements like you don't know better, or maybe you don't, but I think you do know better than this. Oftentimes, people will ask, why are they bringing a civil case? Why not bring a criminal case? Because survivors, as you guys know, or anyone in general who's been a victim of a crime, they can't bring a case. Victims of crimes do not bring criminal cases. You guys, I think you know this. If you are a victim of a crime, and if you don't know this, let me explain. And my legal buddies can probably explain this a lot better, but we're not lawyers. I'm not a lawyer, but I will definitely tell you this basic civic information we should know. So, if someone reports a crime, they report a crime to law enforcement, right? Law enforcement then goes and investigates the crime. And if they have sufficient evidence, will bring it towards a DA, typically a prosecutor. The DA slash prosecutor will then decide if this is a case that should be brought forth and charges filed. It is the legal system that decides whether or not a case should be filed. It is not the survivor or victim, unfortunately. And this is exactly why survivors have a hard time, because oftentimes when it is believed that DAs don't bring cases that they don't think that they can win. So the problem is it is very hard to prove SA crimes because when it happens, most people are not thinking, let me collect evidence to make sure I can win a or file a report that can be then used to charge the person with a crime. Most SA survivors are literally just trying to do just that. They're trying to survive. They're not thinking in terms of the legal system, because honestly, a lot of people don't really even understand how the legal system works until they encounter a situation where they have to utilize it. And so oftentimes when an SA victim is looking for justice, the only option they have is to bring a civil case because the criminal case is just not up to them. Falsehood number three, they're just going after our Black men. Now, granted, there is historical precedence for that statement, right? So we do know that oftentimes our community is more likely to be arrested, more likely to have charges filed, more likely to have harsher sentences. We know this. That is absolutely true. And that has unfortunately not changed. So there is precedence to that statement. So I'll give y'all a half a point on that. But it's also important to know that we're still in the Me Too movement. And the Me Too movement is essentially SA or assault survivors getting their justice. And their justice is oftentimes for bosses, supervisors. That's what the whole Me Too movement was about. It was about the work environment, right? And so, who is more likely to be a boss, to be a supervisor, someone of power, someone who also have coins? And oftentimes, the bigger fish in these the bigger fish when it comes to these criminal cases are the most powerful people, which are more likely men. So I'm going to say are the most powerful men who have lots of coins. And unfortunately, they're also the most likely people to have great influence. And so keep in mind that Black men are not exempt from the Me Too movement. I hope I'm not tapping too hard. Are y'all hearing that tap? Because my hands are going. I talk with my hands, so they're going and I'm passionate about this topic. Black men are not exempt from the Me Too movement. And if we honestly do want true justice when it comes to the Me Too movement, we have to be accepting of the fact that there will be some Black men who are revered by the community who may get cases filed against them. Now, I'm not saying anything about whether or not these cases are true or not. That's not the point of this talk. That's a whole other conversation. We can have that separately. But what I do want us to understand is that the Me Too movement does not exempt Black men. There are very powerful Black men who have done wrong. And if we truly want justice for all individuals, we also have to want justice for people who have been potentially victimized by powerful, influential, highly successful in the monetary value Black men. And I'm trying to find the right words because I'm not trying to point to individuals because I don't know what the outcome of those cases are going to be. I say let the legal system do what the legal system does. We just got to make sure it's a fair trial and legal system. That's all. Because I don't want to distract from the point of what I'm saying is that wealthy, that's the word. There we go. Wealthy, powerful, influential Black men may be also guilty of being perps in the Me Too movement. And if we truly want justice, we have to be okay with the fact that somebody's going to fall out the tree. You shake the tree hard enough, somebody's going to fall out, and the person that falls out may actually surprise you. So, that being said, yes, it would break our hearts if we hear certain people be found guilty of certain things, but if they did the crime, we often sometimes have this, if they did the crime, then justice should prevail for their victims, just as we would want for any other victim. And it's in the community's benefit that we are able to identify those individuals who truly are perps, right? Because you would want them to get the help that they need. Because here's the thing, and a lot of you can relate to this statement. When there are oftentimes families where there are perps in the family, right? And the problem is when family allows certain individuals to continue in their behavior, it doesn't stop. Like somehow I think we anticipate that these people or these individuals, if there really is strong evidence that they are participating in this type of violent behavior, that somehow at some point they're going to stop on their own. And if we give them a pass, they just won't do it again because this one was just a little bit of a problem, right? The problem is that they don't get better. They continue in the behavior because they have been enabled to continue in that behavior. And so they hurt other people and they become more and more victims, or they escalate their behavior and it becomes more violent and it becomes more egregious and it becomes to the point where now they have done something that solidifies to be in jail for the rest of their life. Where had the community intervened and allowed them to get the help that they need, they wouldn't be facing a life sentence. They may have been facing a few years and gotten some help. No one wins when we allow predatory behavior to continue. No one wins. Everyone loses. The community loses, the perp loses, and of course, the survivor loses. Falsehood number 4. And this one is a slippery slope in the wrong direction. It is like going down a slippery slope and ending up into a cesspool of alligators. The thought process of, oh, that's not that big of a deal. That wasn't that serious. If it's inappropriate, it's inappropriate. And so I'm going to say this briefly because I don't want to, again, get into any particular case, but we have to understand the legal system when it comes to employment law. Employment law is one of the most strict law category there is. And so it doesn't require for someone to do a whole lot in order to be in violation of employment law. And here's what I'm talking about. Oftentimes people feel like there has to be some major event like a grape to happen. And if a grape didn't happen, then it's not that big of a deal. Here's the problem with that perspective. Part of the major part about these circumstances is the power dynamic. And oftentimes people ignore the power dynamic that makes these crimes so egregious. So if a boss inappropriately touches an employee, it doesn't matter if the touch was just a slight touch on the boobs or a slight touch on the legs or on the rear. Does it seem that dangerous? Does it seem that big of a deal? Oh, yes, it is. A violation is a violation. And once that touch happens, it creates a dynamic that makes that employee very vulnerable to um, very vulnerable to repercussions, very vulnerable to feeling lack of confidence in their job, feeling scared to go to work. It impacts their productivity. It impacts their ability to make a living in a safe environment for their family. They have self-esteem issues. They can experience retaliation, such as a lack of promotion or perhaps even a demotion, failure to be approved for vacation time, failure to be able to participate on a project. These allegations are very serious when it happens in a workplace. And so all parties should take any type of allegations very seriously. When it comes to the workplace, this is what the Me Too movement was about. And there is no mild essay. Essay is essay. And one of the common misconceptions also is that messaging is not that big of a deal. Guess what, you guys? There are laws that are protecting individuals from inappropriate messaging. So take that very seriously. If someone does not invite you to send blank pics, to send inappropriate commentary, especially if you're an employee circumstances or situation, you cannot send that type of messaging. You cannot give inappropriate commentary. You can't make actual comments that are not invited or reciprocated. You guys, there is such a thing as technology facilitated sexual violence and abuse. And so you have to be very careful because certain things fall in the category of sexual violence, abuse, harassment. These are all crimes. So you don't want to take lightly the fact that it was only a text message. It was only a little bit of a flirtation. In certain contexts, that flirtation, especially when there's a power dynamic, is a violation and is actually very serious. So you don't ever want to categorize anything as just a little bit of an sexual violence or a little bit of an sexual assault. We need to take all sexual violence and all sexual assaults very seriously. When people say, why didn't anyone else come forward? Okay, we've gone over this a million times, but we're going to go over it again because we're going to keep going over these topics until the whole community actually gets it. And again, the point is not to make up your mind about what you believe the ultimate decision should be. It's really just to give us the facts so when we are making our opinions and commentary about these cases, that we're not continuing to endorse false claims or false statements, but that we're taking ownership. For example, you can take ownership of your opinion by saying, I know that false reports are rare, but in this circumstance, I believe that this case is a false report because simple as that. But what we should not be doing is saying, I don't believe him because people lie all the time. They don't. They don't. And if you know someone who is a survivor of a sexual violent crime, you know that for sure no one wants to report anything. They should report, but they don't want to because of look at your statements. Look at the statements that people are saying all the time. Who would want to report their crime or their experience given what they're reading everywhere? I mean, the comments are just flowing. That's a lie. Don't believe them. This is a trend. They just want money. Most survivors don't actually want money. They want justice. Because if you know someone who has been annihilated, you know that there is no dollar in the world that can help them heal from their experience, that can help them overcome the PTSD, that can help them overcome the loss of productivity, the anxiety, the depression. There is no amount of money anyone can write because that is someone's forever life that they have to deal with. And hopefully a lot of them will heal, but there are some people who deal with the aftermath for the rest of their life. There is no dollar that compensates for that. And they have come up with the fact that there is an actual financial cost to these types of violations. But anyway, getting back to what I was going to say. Number 5. So now let's talk about number 5. Number 5 is probably one of the most important. The reason why a lot of survivors don't come forward is because, first of all, I've already shared this with you guys. The most predictive factor in the outcome of people's adulthood, whether it's mental health related or physical health related or their ability to be successful, is what? You guys should know this by now. It is what? And if you've been watching us long enough, you know the answer to that is an adverse experience in someone's childhood. And many people, some of you may be able to relate to this, have experiences in their childhood that they're still recovering from many years deep into their adulthood. And so the logic of people saying, why didn't someone come forward before? If you're having a hard time getting over what your mama did, what your daddy did, what your auntie did, what your uncle did in your childhood, how do you expect someone who had a very UMATIC experience in their adulthood? Did I spell that right? I hope I did, but y'all get what I'm saying. To immediately somehow be able to heal and function and come forward and do one of the hardest things in the world, which is to report the crime. It is the most difficult thing for people to do. So when you hear of instances, ooh, y'all, I'm trying not to comment on certain details, but I feel like certain details are really important. I will say this very loosely. There is one particular case that has been brought forth, and what's interesting is that there was a, okay, I'm not even going to go there. I'm not going to go there. Okay, how do I say this? There was a really publicized case that was recently brought forth. And one of the things I do want to highlight, and again, this is not a commentary as to whether or not I think that the case is correct or whether it's a false report. I'm not commenting on that part. What I do want people to recognize is a potential, something that could be a potential pattern. There was someone who came forth before who had similar claims of the current case, and it was a Black man, and people hypothesized or guessed who they thought that that person was talking about. They came out, they were very heard, posted on social media, and then went quiet. I'm bringing that up because I can't figure out another way of saying, making my next statement, which is, it is very hard for Black men to come forward. And so when you see an instant of a potential predator, in any situation, whether it's in the workplace or if it's in someone's childhood home, or whether it's, at someone's church or whatever the case may be, because these types of incidents happen across the board in all of these environments. Um, it's hard in general for all survivors to come forward, but it is especially hard for men to come forward in general. Subsequent to that, it is extremely hard for Black men to come forward. And so, whenever you see a Black man come forward to disclose of their experience, we ought to really surround them and give them some extra love because of how difficult it is for them to do that. We haven't yet established spaces. We have done better with women in general because of the Me Too movement, but we haven't really established good, safe spaces yet where Black men can feel safe to come forth and to share their stories. And believe you me, that a lot of times, I will say this again, the predators that we protected when the women came forward or the girls came forward are oftentimes the same predators, not always, but oftentimes the same predators that are also victimizing our young Black men. And so it's really important that we make safe spaces, not just for Black women, but also for Black men, that they feel that they are protected and that they are believed. We've spent a lot of time talking about Black women not feeling believed. And out of all the groups, the ethnic groups, the gender identities, Black women oftentimes are the least likely to be believed. And so we understand the difficulty of reporting these crimes. We understand the feeling of not feeling like you're going to be believed. And so this is why I am emphasizing the need for us to create these safe spaces for our Black men, for our young boys also to come forward to say that they have felt violated or victimized by an individual, because it's super, super important that we are able to heal the community from both sides. And I'm not going to get into how to help the predators on this particular talk, because that's a whole separate talk, but I do want to bring out the point that the greatest way in which we can decrease the number of survivors and the number of people who have been victimized is by decreasing the number of predators that are out there. And the CDC, I don't know if it's still up because things have changed, but the CDC did have a list of sort of strategies that we can use as a community and as a nation to decrease the risk factors that make someone more likely to be a predator, and how to decrease the victimization of more commonly women. And part of that is by empowering other men to be allies, empowering other men to be able to stand up and protect other women.
I was in New York with my castmate Latoya Luckett and Portia. So we were exiting the hotel, taking a couple photos before we head to the Sherry Shepherd show. As I'm posing with Latoya taking the photos, I feel someone grab my ass. It's very customary to have my ass grabbed because y'all know who my husband is. My first thought was, no, DeVal did not. So I turned around hoping to see DeVal. There was no DeVal. There was this white dude walking away from me. And when we made eye contact, I said, did you grab my ass? And he smirked at me because he knew exactly what he was doing. And then he turned to walk away. Then Latoya's husband comes to my defense. And in that moment, I was just like, oh my gosh, if DeVal was here, it would have been ultimate crash out. Mm-hmm. And that man would not have seen the light of day. Absolutely.
I would have wanted to violate him the same way in front of all of those people.
Absolutely.
So from man to man, I know what it means to step up and defend someone else's wife. But that also goes to show you, like, husbands, it's almost like they take the responsibility for everybody, every woman that's around,
I've
even when
it's
that. Not. And it's not just me. And I'm glad it happened that way so that you could see and other people could see, like, that's just what a guy who wants to be a provider and protector, he's going to do it. It doesn't have to be his own wife or child.
Oh, for sure.
They're going to do that. And it's the same way, like, mothers and women who nurture, it doesn't have to always be their child or husband.
Anybody in my possession is my baby.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, and they're going to be protected.
That's what you call a village.
Absolutely.
So that was an example of exactly doing that. And kudos to this husband who came up and supported and protected another man's wife. So this is a perfect example of what the CDC has laid out, which are ways in which we can do better with protecting women from being victimized, and at the same time decrease the likelihood that men become predators, or individuals become predators, identifying risk factors, and then giving them the support and the treatment. Because I will definitely say that there are some people who are very severely ill, but I truly believe that there are predators who do not want to be predators, who want the help, who want to stop doing what they're doing, because there are some who probably do know that what they're doing is wrong. So I do believe that there are predators out there who know that what they're doing is wrong, who sincerely want the help, who sincerely want to stop what they're doing. And so we have the opportunity as a community to identify them, create also safe spaces for them to disclose. We need to create safe spaces where they feel that they can seek the help that they want and not be ashamed of it. Because if we help them with their illnesses, then we can decrease the likelihood that people will be, if we help them to deal with their illnesses. What in the world? Okay, I don't know what's going on. I'll check the news when I'm done. But if we create safe spaces so that individuals can disclose their illnesses, receive the help that they need, and then at the same time help to surround our vulnerable members of our community so that they're not victimized, then we can actually decrease the number of sexual violence in our community. And that's really what the ultimate goal is. Y'all hearing that? Are y'all hearing the helicopter? Maybe you're not. So if you're not hearing it, I'm gonna just continue.
I think we have to do better for each other, but I also think we have to do better. I got to do better as Andrew Gillum. I got to do better as a Black man. I have to do better as a father. I have to do better. And all of those things can be a requirement of me that I put on myself, that are without regard to all the other influences, women who I'm married to, what I'm doing, da 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 da, have to, have going on in my life.
So I've given you the top 5 things that are the top 5 falsehoods when it comes to SA crimes that people keep repeating as if they're facts, but they're completely false perceptions about these types of crimes. And so hopefully with this information, you feel more empowered, where you won't, please don't be that individual in the comments knowing better and then still reiterating some of these falsehoods. Somebody check the news for me. Anyway, I hope everything's okay out there. But okay, sounds like they're actually going away. Oh, they are really circling. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this up because I need to apparently check the news to make sure that I know what's going on. But nonetheless, I have given you 5 top falsehoods, very common misconceptions when it comes to essays, that we just need to do better in our community so that we can actually make the difference that we truly, and please, I hope that this stuff is not just lip service, but we truly do want to make a difference when it comes to these types of crimes and acts of violence. And so please share with people that you know so that we're all better informed, especially if you hear somebody who is repeating some of these falsehoods. Just give them the facts, because the facts are the facts are the facts are the facts. We have been studying essays and SVs for a very long time, and at least have made some headway in improving our understanding of the experiences of survivors and actually understanding perpetrators as well. So I hope this has been helpful for you. if I see y'all in the comments again, I will be back, because my goal is really to use my expertise to help you have better understanding of survivors and better understanding of these dynamics so that you can have an opinion, but not basing your opinion on falsehood or false perceptions about these types of crimes. So thank you guys for watching. This is Dr. T, the hand behind the handle of Healthy Bump Club right here on YouTube and Healthy Bump Club on Instagram. Once again, I thank you guys for watching. Hope this is helpful. Hope we're growing in understanding and empathy and compassion as a community so that we can say better, do better, act right. Okay. See you guys when? The next episode. This is Dr. T, just a friendly reminder. Don't forget to comment, like, and share. And go ahead, why not? Click that subscribe button. Help us to get to the next 1,000 subscribers. We thank you guys for supporting.